Hello, it's Don. All right, what are we up to today? Well, we posted a little short not long ago where we mocked up a pilot house for the Panga. Obviously a smaller one because it's only a 22-foot Panga, but a pilot house nonetheless. It's going to be a little narrower than my console. Part of the problem with everything with this boat is that it's been too wide. It's a narrow boat, and when it rocks offshore with the T-top, I've got it set as narrow as it can be, but when the boat rocks, the pipes up there hit you. They want to knock you out of the boat. It's not a good thing. So we made our seat stanchion single wide, open up the back of the boat. Now we're going to build this pilot house. We're going to take it down to 24 inches wide. I've got my marine plywood. There's Pepper here to help. Pepper, change your mind? There she goes. Bye, Pepper. Anyways, so this is marine plywood. Very good. This is 9mm 3/8. Which you'd say, boy, that's kind of small for building a pilot house out of, but by the time I fiberglass this, with my cloth on the outside and inside, I'll probably use 9mm cloth on the outside, and on the inside, I may go with a mat, a cross-strand mat, just because I'll be going around different things, but I'll worry about that when I get to it. Right now, we got to build it. Here's one of the side plates off the cardboard mock-up I made, and that would have been the window, and I got measurements written out and all, and I was just double checking because this is expensive plywood. And if anybody wanted to see the plans, well, hey, this is about as high tech as it gets. There's my plans. I'm happy to share them with you. I get stuff in my head, and I just scribble it down. I think about it. I wake up at night sometimes and go write stuff down so I can go back to sleep. So that was how I scribbled it up, and I jotted it all down. Then I built it out of cardboard, and it all worked out good. So now we're going to cut the plywood out. The one sheet is going to make my two side panels. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to cut this sheet right off end to end here, flop it over, and I'll cut both side panels out at the same time. That way, no matter what, no hiccups that I wander here the saw, there the saw. It doesn't matter. They'll both be identical. Just a little trick of the trade there. All right, let me get set up with the saw, and I'll be right back. Okay, we're set up, ready to cut here. You can see I got my guide bar on there. I'm good with woodworking. I've been doing this a long time, and I'm pretty good freehand. But realistically, when you want a nice straight cut, use a guide bar. It makes a big difference. Especially, I got my saw cut just deep enough to go through the wood, so I don't cut my sawhorses in half underneath there. And it'll make it easy to wander, so use a guide bar. Okay, we're clamped up again. This is where we're going to make our front cut, and it's not going to be straight up and down. It's going to go in and back out. So here's my line, and I've got this one clamped first, and here's our stop point, and we're going to come back out. I'll have to move my guide bar again. And that last little teeny bit, I'll get the skill saw out, jigsaw, keyhole saw, whatever you want to call it, and I'll cut that out with that. So let's make this first cut. Now I have a left and a right. Two pieces that are exactly the same. Okay, well, I'm going to mess with this for a while, get my front piece cut. We're probably going to be doing stitch and glue on this. I'm not sure. I might screw it together with a filler piece in the corners, but I'm thinking stitch and glue. We'll see what happens when we get there. And the sides are all square on it, and I just ripped this at 24 inches, and I just double checked, make sure I didn't mess anything up, but I'm 24 inches all the way around on both my panels. My console can be 24 inches, so it don't matter which one of these is going to be the front panel. And I'm going to put a half cut through it at my 39-inch mark, because that's where my front is going to come up and it's going to go back out. Not that abruptly, but it's at that point I need to, instead of having two pieces of wood, I'm going to put a cut 3/4 of the way through it and let it make a little kink right there and bend around. Okay, don't know how well it'll show up, but there I made my cut all the way across, but not all the way through. Okay, I definitely opted for the stitch and glue. Any of you who's not familiar with that, what I'm going to be doing here is that you can see I've marked my wood. Here's the 1 inch and 1 foot, 1 foot, 1 foot, 1 foot, 1 foot, both up and down both sides. And I'm right outside, this is going to be the thickness of the plywood, and right side of that I'm going to drill a hole in all of them spots. I'm going to mark it the same on my side panels, you know, the same distance, so the holes will line right up. And then I'm going to, when I put all this together, I'm just going to put it all together with wire ties, and I'm not going to crank them down. I'm just going to get them all loose and get everything fit in place. Then I can cut my interior shelves, fit them in place. I can fit this whole thing together first and make sure everything's absolutely perfect. And the reason they call it stitch and glue, and then I got this space in between, I'll mix up an epoxy with a thickener, and I'll lay little flets in between each spot and let that set up, and that'll, and a stitch pattern, and it'll glue this thing together. They coin it stitch and glue, and that, believe it or not, is very solid in itself. And that'll allow me to come back, cut the wire ties off, and then finish epoxying the corners the whole way. Okay, there's one side stitched on. Now it's holding itself in place. You can see the wire ties, and there's just a stitch like they call it. Here's where I split one side of the wood and just put a score down the other side. I use my razor knife and just put a cut so they could bend nicely on that. We'll go ahead and stitch up the other side. This is way easier with two people, but we're getting it done. Okay, we're back on the job. We got it all pieced together. We got a couple of shelves put in there. The main shelf, it's going to house the steering wheel, throttles, and all, and then the shelf above that cover electronics. I want to go ahead and stitch these corners on now. I don't want anything to move. I got it all squared up. Everything's 90 degrees. I've thickened my epoxy. We're using epoxy resin for this, epoxy resin and wood shine. And I've got a little thinner than I would normally, because I really want it to run down into those corners good and get down in there. So let's start with this. Okay, where are we at now? Well, as you can see, it's together. There's no more tie wraps in there. It's all held together on its own. Where we made our cut across the front, you can actually see where the epoxy rosin has leaked through, so that's as good as one again. And if you come around to what's going to be the inside, we've been doing a little carpentry work here. We got our top shelf. Electronics are going to be below this. This is our console top, steering wheel, gauges, throttle, whatnot, and we got the face on there. You know, more gauges, whatever, storage underneath. house is coming along. Maybe we should call this a half pilot. It's not like we go inside of it. Anyways, here's the bottom. It's all glassed inside everywhere, all up around the corners, bends. Console area is glassed. All the edges. I didn't worry about here or here because these are going to be cut out for windows. I probably should have glassed it all. You know, looking back at that, I could have cut them pieces out and then I'm sure I'd find some use for them boards with the glass on them. But oh well, too late now. And I'll probably in the corners lay another layer in the corners just to take any possible twist out of it. What I'm afraid when I cut these windows out, you know, that theoretically might weaken the structure a little bit. So we're going to double glass the corners, and then we're going to lay a board near a 45-degree angle, glass that in from the shelf up to the roof. That'll give it great structural strength. Plus then I can make a weather chase behind it. I think I'm going to have my VHF radio up on the top. Okay, here's where we're at. Oh, it's coming along. We've got the opening down here at the bottom. I put a little frame around it, and that really stiffened it up. It had a little bit of side-to-side jiggle to it, if that's what you want to call it. So we framed that. That made it solid as a rock. Okay, we're getting closer all the time. All of the inside is now fiberglass. All around all the corners is now fiberglass. Totally wrapped around all these corners, all the inside. It's all done. I'm going to cut out for the windows now. This is just a rough cutout. Smaller than what the windows are going to be, but squared with the console nonetheless. Because I haven't nailed down what I'm doing for glass yet. If I cut it out smaller than what I need, I can always make it bigger. If I cut it out too big, then I'm in trouble. Here's our half pilot build. I've gotten a little behind on the video, and you can see it's primered up now. It's all fiberglass built. This is generally what we've got. This is what it's going to be. Storage in the bottom. Batteries. There'll be a shelf in there. I haven't got around to that yet. Of course, my console area. Just an upper shelf, compass, whatever, electronics underneath. Front window is cut out to size. see I've got an edge in here. I took my router and made an edge all the way around, 1/4 inch, so the plexiglass window sets into that edge and it'll be flushed, and I've got trim cut out for that. And I'm just getting ready to cut out my 2 side windows to the final size. And what I do here is I lay it down. And obviously it's drawn out, but then I'll take blue tape, painter's tape, and I tape out my exact edges. So now when I cut this out, you can see I already did the bottom here. When I cut this off the skill saw, I can follow that tape line exactly. It's just, at least to me, it's easier to follow a tape line. If you're cutting your tape, you're really messing up. Not only that, the blue tape on there keeps you from, you know, if there was anything underneath there gouging into your paint, or in this case, this is epoxy, 2-part epoxy paint, because we're going to sand all that, and then we're going to paint this with all grip to match the hard top that we built. It's been done for a while now. It came out real nice. So we're getting along. Let's cut this out. We've been building this pilot house for a while now. It's taken me longer than I would have thought. You know, in between jobs, I've actually been on it for, I don't know, maybe a couple of months now. But by God, it's there. It's at the finish line. So here's our, I keep calling it a pilot house. We're going to call it a half pilot house because you don't get in it. You're still going to stand behind it, but it sure come out nice. Everything I wanted. Of course, we'll put the windows in last. Here's the hard top we made. This is the underside that'll be attached. And we're only going to put the webbing solution on the underside, not on top. It's really kind of irrelevant up there. I did such a nice fairing job and paint job. Nobody's ever going to see it. I know what you do now. We're standing back a ways. You got to let the air hit it. We're not painting this. We just want that spatter look. Oh, that's looking good. See what I was talking about? It don't take much. Okay, here we go on the house. But hey, it looks good. I'm happy with that. Close up there. Like I said, when you're doing webbing, less is more. You're not painting it. You don't want to cover it. You don't want to change the color. You just want to give it that spatter look. It takes away from any blemishes that might be there. I'm sure there's plenty. You know, this is all fabricated. This isn't out of a mold. So that's why I web it. And it looks good. I like it. So there's the hard top. And here's our pilot house. Mostly assembled. This is how it's going to look. The windows in the front, got the plastic there to still protect it. The wood framing here is soaked in epoxy, and the epoxy itself is not UV resistant, so I clear coated it. I just thought it had a nice look with the yellow cream finish. Of course, the webbing solution came out real nice. The hard top all framed in. Very solid. I don't see any problem there. The windows, I still think I'm going to add some side windows that open forward to allow air in. It's hot here in Florida. Bottom section. I've got a shelf built for that, but we're not going to put it until it's rigged into the boat so it doesn't interfere with anything.